I gripped my water glass too tightly as Mom slid the thick cream envelope across the dining table. It was high-quality cardstock from a local boutique print shop, hand-addressed with shimmering gold ink, because heaven forbid my sister have a birthday invitation without a fancy font that looked like it cost $400 just for 50 pieces of paper. Are they not lovely? Mom beamed, watching Bianca distribute the envelopes around the table. The woman at the shop said it was the most tasteful design she had put together all month. It really makes a statement. Dad cleared his throat, his chest puffing with pride. I managed to reserve the private back room at Miller's Bistro. I had to talk to the manager 3 times to get the Saturday night slot, but for my girl turning 25, I wanted to make sure we had a place where everyone could see us. Bianca squealed, flipping her blonde hair over one shoulder. I've already got 40 people confirmed on the group chat, and that is before these even go out. Aunt Sarah's daughter only had 30 people at her little backyard party last month, and she thought that was a big deal. She smirked. Wait until she sees the photos from this. It's my quarter-life crisis party. I took a sip of water, letting the ice clink against my teeth. 10 years of these conversations had passed. 10 years of watching Bianca's birthday turn into a neighborhood event while mine passed with a grocery store cake and a happy birthday text if I was lucky. Mom turned to me, sliding a worn manila folder across the table with her neatly painted nails. A standard retail credit card sat on top. We need you to handle the coordination again this year, dear. You are so much better with the spreadsheets and the phone calls than the rest of us. The way she said it, it was as if she was giving me a promotion instead of handing me a second job. I stared at the folder. Inside were printouts from Pinterest, printouts of catering menus, and a list of local bakeries. It was the same folder I had received since I was 17, each year growing thicker with demands for aesthetic perfection. Make sure they have that gourmet cupcake tower like the one on my mood board. Bianca interrupted, not bothering to look up from her phone. But with the real buttercream, not the cheap sugary stuff they use at the supermarket. Dad tapped the credit card. That is our contribution this year, $1,000 now, and your mother will have the remaining $500 in cash for you next week, Kendall. We know the total bill for the restaurant, the open bar, and the food is going to be around $6,000, but we expect you to cover the remaining $4,500 as your birthday gift to your sister. After all, 25 is a big one. We will pay you back when things settle down. He chuckled as if it were a joke we both enjoyed, even though he still owed me for the car repairs I covered last summer. My fingers closed around the folder. They were trembling, but no one noticed. No one ever noticed. I saw myself at 18, staying home from the lake trip to handwrite Bianca's graduation party thank you notes. I saw myself at 22, missing my own celebratory lunch because Bianca's birthday balloon arch arrived deflated and someone needed to drive 40 miles to find a replacement. I saw myself at 25, watching my meager savings account drain as I covered the $1,800 surprise live acoustic band Bianca insisted on at the last minute. I was still waiting for that money to return to my account. I saw my own birthdays exactly 2 weeks after Bianca's passing in a blur of leftover paper plates and distracted well wishes. We are all so tired from the big party. Mom always said, let us just do something simple at home. Simple meant forgotten. Simple meant a quick phone call at 8 in the evening. Simple meant nothing at all. Kendall? Did you hear me? Mom waved her hand in front of my face. I said we need the restaurant deposit confirmed by Friday afternoon. Yes, I said automatically. I heard you. Later that day, in my small apartment, I spread the contents of the folder across my kitchen counter. The theme was rose gold dreams because the garden party idea was too common, according to Bianca's latest text. The budget was locked at $6,000. My laptop sat open to my bank account, $6,245.80. That was my entire life savings, built dollar by dollar from my administrative assistant salary. They wanted me to spend nearly 75% of every cent I had on a party for a sister who had never even asked if I needed help with my rent. I had never celebrated a birthday properly. Not once in 27 years. I looked at the screen of my phone and saw a message from Rachel that had been sitting in our thread for 6 months. It was a link to a beach house with a loft in Destin, Florida. This is still available for your birthday week, Kendall. the old message read. Just say the word. For 2 years, I had been the reason that group chat was silent. I was the one who always said, "We will see," or I don't have the money. Something shifted inside me like tectonic plates that had been grinding against each other for years. Finally breaking free. The $4,000 it would cost did not feel like a burden anymore. It felt like the price of my soul. I closed Bianca's folder and clicked the link Rachel had sent. I did not just book it for myself. I took a screenshot of the confirmation and sent it to the group chat. I am going 1 week early to be alone and hide. You guys fly in for the 2nd week. Destin is booked. Check your emails, which I immediately renamed The Great Escape. My phone buzzed. It was Rachel. Oh my goodness! Finally! I have had my vacation folder ready since last Christmas. I am telling Lisa to grab her flight before the prices spike. I felt something unfamiliar bloom in my chest as I entered my debit card information. It was not guilt. It was not fear. It was freedom. The next day, at the office, my phone vibrated for the 12th time that morning. I knew it was either Mom or Bianca without looking. The constant buzzing against my wooden desk had become so distracting that Janet from accounting had started giving me worried looks over her cubicle wall. "Kendall, your phone is going off like crazy," my boss Mark commented as he passed my desk. He paused, noticing my frustrated expression. "Is everything okay at home?" I nodded, flipping the phone over to see 15 new text messages. Mom wanted to know if the restaurant allowed outside decorations. Bianca had changed her mind on the cake flavor from vanilla to salted caramel. "Sorry, I will put it on silent." I slid the phone into my drawer, but Mark's hand on my shoulder stopped me. "Take a few minutes in the break room if you need to handle it. You are always on top of your work anyway. You deserve a moment to yourself." The moment he walked away, my phone lit up with Mom's face. I stepped into the break room and answered. "Kendall, I have been trying to reach you all morning," Mom said without a greeting. "I need you to call the bakery. Bianca wants a much larger tier for the cake now. She saw a photo online and says the original $350 design looks stingy for 50 people. Mom, we are already pushing the $6,000 mark for the whole event. A larger base tier and custom fondant work is going to cost another $200 for the cake alone. It's only a couple $100, dear. This is Bianca's 25th. We have got to make it look nice for the family. Aunt Sarah is already asking if we are doing a sit-down dinner." The break room door opened, and Janet entered to grab a coffee, then quickly backed out when she saw my face. I lowered my voice. "The budget is already too high." "You gave me $1,500 and you expect me to find $4,500? I don't have that kind of extra cash lying around, Mom." "Well, you can use your savings for now. Your father will pay you back in installments later this year. I don't be difficult about this." "Like the money for the tires?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. "Kendall Elizabeth, I don't appreciate that attitude." "Oh. I almost forgot I will be stopping by your office on my way to the grocery store. I have some sample ribbons for the party favors." Before I could protest, she hung up. I gripped the edge of the laminate counter, breathing slowly through my nose. I checked my bank account on my phone after I booked the beach house. The remaining balance was enough to get me through the month, but only if I was very careful. Rachel and Lisa, my best friend from college, and my former roommate, had already seen the confirmation in The Great Escape. They knew I was covering the accommodation, so they immediately started coordinating via Venmo to cover the rental car, groceries, and fancy dinners. They were not going to let me spend another cent. After the lunch break and the meeting with my mother, who spent 20 minutes talking about Bianca's vision while I stood in the parking lot, I returned to my desk. A wave of heat flushed up my neck. I slipped away to the restroom, locking myself in a stall as my hands shook. That night, at home, I pulled out old family photo albums from my closet. There was page after page of Bianca's celebrations, her sweet 16 at the community center, her 21st at that expensive steakhouse, her 24th with a weekend at the lake with 10 of her friends. I flipped through my old journals, and the entries had become a painful pattern. April 18, my 18th birthday. We went to Bianca's track meet. Dad bought me a burger on the way home and said we would do a cake later. They forgot. April 18. No one mentioned my birthday at dinner. I bought myself a cupcake on the way home from work. April 18. Rachel took me to the movies. No family. I slammed the journal shut and turned in early. I had a long journey ahead of me. The next morning at work, Michael from accounting leaned against my cubicle. "Hey, do you have a second?" I followed him to the break room. "So I heard about your Florida plan. I have some airline vouchers that are about to expire. How about I use one to get you a seat with extra legroom and priority boarding for your trip?" Unexpected tears pricked my eyes. "Michael, I don't have to do that." "Hey, you do a lot for everyone in this office. Consider it a thank you for always keeping the supply closet organized and the coffee fresh." He showed me the confirmation on his screen. "All set. Enjoy the flight." The contrast between these genuine gestures and my family's constant demands felt like stepping out of a dark room into the sun. Friday evening at my parents' house. I showed them the finalized plans for the bistro, fake menus and fake reservation receipts I made on my computer showing the full $6,000 total. "You are such a lifesaver, Kendall," Mom said, barely glancing at the papers. She slid an envelope across the table. "Here is another check to add to the $1,500 deposit we gave you. That should cover the basics, right?" Dad nodded, his eyes fixed on the television. "Bianca's worried the room is too small now. See if you can get them to move some tables around." "I will handle it," I said automatically, but this time, the words felt like a secret I was keeping just for myself. On Monday, I deposited the check into my account. The teller smiled at me. "Going on a trip?" "Yes," I answered, a genuine smile finally reaching my eyes. Something just for me. During a family dinner the following Saturday, the kitchen felt cramped as we sat around the small table for another update session. It was 1 week before Bianca's birthday, and the atmosphere was as tense as a business merger. "The centerpieces need to be bigger," Bianca insisted, poking at her salad. "I saw Aunt Sarah's table at the reunion, and if mine does not look better than hers, I will be embarrassed to post anything." Mom nodded in agreement while Dad checked the time on his phone. I sat quietly, making fake notes in my planner while mentally double-checking my suitcase list. "We might need another $500 for the decorations," Dad said, sighing as he looked at his bank app. "Kendall, can you just put that on your card for now? We will figure out a way to pay you back by summer." I nodded, the motion being a habit I was finally ready to break. My savings account was holding steady, thanks to my careful budgeting and the fact that I had not spent a dime of my own money on this event. "By the way," Dad said, looking up as if he had just remembered a random fact, "is your birthday coming up soon too?" Before I could even open my mouth, Mom interjected. "We will just do a little pizza night here at the house for her after the big bistro party is over. Nothing fancy, but it will be nice for us to just relax." The old Kendall would have said, "That is fine." This Kendall just wrote pizza in large letters in her notebook and circled it twice. "Classic," I said, my voice dripping with a sarcasm they were too self-absorbed to notice. After all, nothing says "Happy 27th" like lukewarm pepperoni and the silence of being an afterthought. "That sounds like exactly what you always do, Mom," I added silently to myself. The next morning, I sent an email to Mark at the office requesting my vacation days. "Family situation," I wrote. It was not a lie. The situation was that I was finally leaving the family drama behind. On Wednesday, I packed my bags late at night when I was certain no one would show up at my door. Each item I folded felt like a victory: the bright yellow sundress I bought on sale, the swimsuit I had been hiding in the back of my drawer, the sandals I only wore when I was feeling brave. The beach house with a loft was waiting for me. When Bianca texted me demanding I find silk ribbons for the party favors, I waited an hour before replying. When Mom called to ask about changing the appetizer list for the 3rd time, I let it go to voicemail. Those were small steps, but they made me feel stronger. The final payment for the house and the private dolphin tour hit my account on Thursday, $4,000 well spent for my 27th birthday. I looked at the confirmation on my phone, a warmth spreading through my chest. It was mine. No one could take this from me. That night, my phone rang late. Dad's voice was loud through the speaker. "Emergency meeting at the house, Kendall. Bianca is having a meltdown about the guest list." I arrived to find Bianca sitting at the kitchen table, tears in her eyes. 3 more people from my old high school class said, "They're coming. That makes 53. Where are they going to sit?" "The room is only rated for 50. This is going to be a total mess." Mom was rubbing her shoulders while Dad looked at me with that familiar heavy expectation. "You can fix this, honey," Mom said. "Just call the manager and tell them we need more space." 3 pairs of eyes were on me. Bianca's were desperate, Mom's were pleading, and Dad's were demanding. The old Kendall would have already been on the phone, apologizing to the manager and offering to pay extra. I took a deep breath and looked at them. "I have it all under control. I don't worry about it." The words hung in the air. They thought I was promising to solve Bianca's social crisis. I knew I was confirming that my exit was perfectly timed. Dad's shoulders dropped in relief. "I knew we could count on you to handle the heavy lifting. If they only knew." At dawn the next morning, my alarm went off at 3:30. I was already awake. I wheeled my suitcase out the front door, locking it behind me with a satisfying click. My taxi had already been waiting at the curb for 5 minutes. The drive to the airport felt like I was finally driving toward my own life. Once inside the terminal, I grabbed a coffee from an automated kiosk, the bitter warmth grounding me. At the check-in counter, the agent smiled at me. "You've been moved to a seat with extra legroom, Miss Matthews. Have a great flight." Rachel's text arrived just as I was queuing at the gate. "Enjoy the solitude before we get there. Love you." As the plane pulled away from the gate, I switched my phone to airplane mode. All the missed calls and emergency texts from my family vanished. A wave of peace washed over me. Later that day, I was standing in the sun, squinting against the bright Florida light. I drove toward the coast until I saw a small, pale blue beach house with a loft, a screen porch, and a view of the white sand. For the first week, I was alone with the ocean. For the second week, my friends would fill the loft with laughter. I recorded a new voicemail. "Hi, this is Kendall. I am not available for the next 2 weeks. Please leave a message, and I will get back to you when I return." Unavailable. It was the best I had felt in years. That evening, I walked on the beach. As the sun started to set, the warm water rippled over my feet. I thought about all the years I spent making sure everyone else was happy while I stayed in the shadows. For the first time, I let myself feel how much it hurt to be ignored by my own family. A few tears fell, but they felt like a release. On the Saturday of Bianca's birthday, Miller's Bistro was crowded with the usual weekend dinner rush. At 6:15 in the evening, the 50 guests Bianca invited began to arrive. They were dressed in their best party clothes, expecting to be ushered into a private, decorated room with an open bar. At 6:45, the small parking lot was full. Confused relatives and friends from the neighborhood gathered at the front entrance, holding their gold-inked invitations. At exactly 7 o'clock, Bianca pulled up in Dad's car, wearing a new dress she had bought for the occasion. She walked into the bistro, followed by my parents, expecting to see rose gold dreams everywhere. Instead, she saw a busy restaurant full of strangers. "Hi, I'm here for the Matthews party, the room for 50, Bianca said to the young woman at the host stand. The hostess looked at her screen, her brow furrowing. "I have a Kendall Matthews here, but it's just a regular table for 3 in the corner." The prefix menu was selected, and the $850 prepayment, which covers the savory courses and the peach cupcakes, has already been applied. "Would you like me to show you to your table?" The lobby went silent. Behind Bianca, her friends and the cousins were already whispering and pulling out their phones. "Where is the rest of it?" Bianca's voice was high and sharp. "Where is the private room? The decorations? The cupcake tower?" Mom was frantically pulling her phone out of her purse. "There must be a misunderstanding," she said to the hostess. "Our daughter handled the whole thing. We gave her the money for the full event." The manager came over, looking at a printout. "I am sorry, Mrs. Matthews. The individual who handled the booking directly specifically opted for only a corner table for 3 this evening. We have no other information or instructions on file. You may want to verify the details with Miss Kendall Matthews. I apologize for any confusion. We are completely booked tonight." "There is nothing we can move. I did not cancel the party. I just let my family's assumption that I would handle the bill, do the work for me." Outside on the sidewalk, Bianca was practically shouting into her phone. "Kendall, answer me! What did you do? You ruined everything!" She was staring at her phone screen, her face red with frustration. Every call went straight to my recorded message. Mom was pacing back and forth, her phone pressed to her ear. "Kendall, it's Mom. Call me right now. There is a huge problem at the restaurant. Just call me back." She hung up and tried again immediately. Maybe something happened to her, Dad said, looking genuinely worried as he loosened his tie. "Should we be calling the police?" "I told everyone this was going to be the party of the year." Bianca wailed as her friends started to make awkward excuses about having other places to be. "Everyone is going to think we are broke. This is so embarrassing." The social media meltdown was instantaneous. I watched from the beach as the piping hot tea started to flow. Guests were posting photos of the empty lobby and the confused family. By 8:30, Bianca was sitting on the couch at home, scrolling through her phone and crying. Marissa already posted a photo of the empty lobby. Everyone knows. At that same moment, in Florida, I was lying on a lounge chair while the sound of the ocean filled the air. I had not looked at my phone in days. My friends had arrived for the second week, and the house was full of the people who actually cared. On my actual birthday, a few days later, I was sitting on the sand at sunrise. Rachel took a photo of me holding a cup of coffee, looking at the bright orange sky with a real peaceful smile. "What is the caption for this one?" she asked. 27 years and I finally showed up for myself. My actual birthday." Within an hour, people were commenting. They were friends from work, old high school classmates, and even some of the cousins who were at the restaurant disaster. Aunt Susan left a comment too. "Enjoy every second of your day." Later that afternoon, after the dolphin tour, I took a quick look at Bianca's social media. She posted a tearful selfie with the caption, "A day I will never forget for all the wrong reasons." The comments were full of people asking what happened, and Bianca was replying with things like, "My sister let us all down." That evening I checked the notification count on my phone. There were 60 missed calls and over 100 texts. My friends were watching me, making sure I was okay as I scrolled past the angry messages from my parents. "Are you ready for cake?" Lisa asked, bringing out a small lemon cake with a single candle. Rachel took a photo of me in front of the candle, with the moon reflecting on the ocean behind me. "What is the caption for this one?" Lisa asked. I looked at the photo at how bright and happy I looked. Just, finally seen. I posted the photo, and then turned the phone off completely. "Let us go for a walk," I said, standing up. The weight that had been on my shoulders for years felt like it had finally evaporated. The day I flew back home, my phone came to life the second the plane landed. The notifications were endless. There were 3 voicemails from Dad, 10 texts from Mom, and a long, angry email from Bianca. I sat in my seat for a moment, taking a deep breath before I listened to the first message. "You have got a lot of explaining to do, Kendall." Dad's voice was low and angry. "You embarrassed your mother and sister. Get to the house as soon as you get in." Mom's text was just as bad. "I cannot believe you would do this to us. Everyone in the neighborhood is talking about the restaurant. How could you be so selfish?" Bianca's email was just a long list of how I ruined her life, and how she would never forgive me for making her look bad in front of her friends. Only Aunt Susan's message was different. "They're all waiting for you at the house. Stay strong, Kendall. Remember that you have every right to your own life." In the airport restroom, I looked at myself in the mirror. Rachel said, "Don't let them make you feel small again. You did what you had to do." "I know," I said, straightening my shoulders. "I am not that person anymore." An hour later, my ride dropped me off at my apartment building. I had just stepped inside to set down my luggage when my phone began to chime incessantly. It was my mother, her voice thick with indignation when I finally answered. "We need to talk, Kendall. You need to explain all of this. We're outside your apartment right now." I took a slow, steadying breath. "Meet me at the park around the corner," I replied. "Why?" Her voice flickered with a moment of genuine surprise. "Because it's a condition," I said, my voice as level as a horizon line. The night breeze in the park whipped at our hair. Yet the air felt strangely comfortable, though I suspected I was the only one who felt that way. How could you do something so cruel? Mom started. We trusted you with that party, and you just walked away. Dad turned toward me, his face set like stone. We have always supported you, Kendall, and this is how you treat your sister on her 25th birthday? You have always been so bitter about my life, Bianca added, her voice trembling with practiced fragility. I looked at them. I did not apologize. I have spent the last 10 years making sure everyone else in this family was happy, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. I have spent my savings, my time, and my energy making sure Bianca had everything she wanted, even when I was being ignored. I looked back at my calendars. For 10 years, we have had a big celebration for Bianca, and for 10 years, my birthday was treated like a chore that you forgot to do. You told me a pizza night was enough for me, so I decided that a corner table was enough for Bianca's party. Dad looked away, shifting his weight. That is not the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. I spent $4,000 of my own hard-earned money to finally have a birthday that was about me. I used $850 to settle the bill for that table for 3. As for the rest, well, consider it your first real contribution to my birthday. After all these years, I'd say it was about time. Everything fell into silence, punctuated only by the rustle of leaves and the faint hum of insects in the dark. Under the warm glow of the park's lampposts, the scene looked almost romantic, a stark, ironic contrast to the hollowed-out people standing within it. I need to get to bed early. Goodbye, I said, turning my back on them. I left them there, frozen and motionless. I walked briskly toward my building, and with every step, I felt the distance grow, the distance I knew I needed to finally protect myself. A year had passed since that trip to Florida. I was in my apartment, putting up a few simple decorations for my 28th birthday. The place looked different then. I had added more of my own personality to the rooms, with photos from my travels and colors that made me feel happy. I had gotten a new haircut that I loved, and I was wearing a dress that made me feel confident. The doorbell rang, and Rachel walked in with a cake, followed by Lisa. Aunt Susan was right behind them, carrying a small gift. Happy birthday, Kendall, they all shouted. You look wonderful, Aunt Susan said, giving me a hug. You look like you are finally at home in your own skin. I smiled. She was right. I did not feel like I had to hide anymore. That past year had been a lot of work. Every 2 weeks our group chat still named The Great Escape met for dinner. They had become my chosen family, the ones who celebrated my wins and held me up when I was tired. I did not need a formal counselor. I just needed to stop being invisible. Time for presents, Lisa said, gesturing to the table. They had given me things they knew I actually liked, books by my favorite authors and a new plant for my balcony. Aunt Susan's gift was a framed photo of me when I was 5, smiling at a cupcake. I found this in an old box, she said. I wanted you to remember that you have always been someone worth celebrating. So, what is the plan for next year? Rachel asked, handing me a glass of cider. I think I will just keep doing exactly what I am doing, I said, being present in my own life instead of just managing everyone else's. The day before, a new girl started at my office. She reminded me of how I used to be. I took her to lunch and told her that her ideas mattered. It felt good to pass that on. I had a note in my journal from that morning, the year I finally showed up. Later, after the cake was eaten and my friends had gone home, I stood on my balcony and looked at the city lights. I felt a sense of peace that I never thought I would have. I had completely severed every last tie with my family. I no longer harbored even a shadow of hope for a reconciliation, not after they had spent the year following Bianca's birthday fallout systematically poisoning the minds of our relatives and neighbors against me. But their desperate attempts to drag me back down into the dirt had proved utterly futile. Their words could no longer reach the heights I had built for myself. It was the best gift I could ever give myself, the permission to matter. I was finally, truly, the main character in my own story.